What's up, warriors? Welcome to the battlefield of the mind. Today, I'm with Michael Krug. Is that right?
Krug, long
Krug. You make the long U and don't mess it up. I love
used to
it,
be
dude.
an umlaut, I think, when my grandpa came over from Germany, but he dropped that when he got here. So,
Man, I think that's a bold move to lose the umlaut. In any case, brother, it's good to hang out with you now. You've been doing a lot of podcasts, I'm sure, right? You're up to about 1 million of them now. And so at this point, people probably have a rough idea of your story. Can you give us like the super short version, and then let's get into some awesome shit to help people?
yeah, the condensed version. I went from extremely unhealthy to very healthy, and now that's what I do for a living is help people find that health. To give you the quick synopsis, so growing up, a lot of different types of trauma, parents divorced, dealing with a mom who still to this day has eating disorder issues, and seeing that growing up. And I kind of took that on. By the time I was in 8th grade, over 200 pounds. I was high blood pressure, diagnosed with hypertension. They gave me an ACE inhibitor in 8th grade, 5 milligram dose a day. And then going forward, put on more weight, didn't address actual behaviors, 11th grade, 10 milligram dose. And that was when I had my first round of 2 knee surgeries, bone graft transplant surgeries into my femur. So that kind of sent me into depression. They told me I wouldn't play sports anymore. I went to college mostly to party. I went to party with the side of school. And while I was there, I was playing hockey. I'm in Minnesota. So I was playing hockey one winter and I fell, and that bone graft they put in my knee actually cracked out, there's a level of pain that I can't really explain with that story. Emergency surgery the next day, they did the same thing, drilled into my femur and put a new bone graft in. All said and done, the day was Wednesday, May 16, 2012. I went into the doctor for my follow-up after that knee surgery, and I stepped on the scale, and I was 375 pounds. We went back, and my blood pressure was 160 over 100 with a 10 milligram dose of lisinopril, which is an ACE inhibitor daily. Not saying it's good or bad, right or wrong, but that was what we were at. And I kind of had this realization that I need to change or I'm going to die. So I decided to change, and I'm glad I did. And that's why I'm here talking to you today. So that's the short version.
I love it, man. I appreciate it because it gives us a lot to work with here. So I like that. As far as this goes, people like they hear the self win. Like I got to the point where I hit this point, then I was done doing that anymore. And so I don't think people get as much into like the real talk for the self-destructive behavior, the patterns that came from the generational curse from mom, the stuff where like when I don't know how to handle a situation or don't have control, I eat and I eat and I eat. You know, I try to find comfort and distraction or whatever. Can we get into some of like what the hell was going on with you? Like, so, because that way people can find that connector point, because they see Michael, the champion. They don't see Michael like, how did you become the guy who needed to become the champion? What was happening?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And like you said, not a lot of people ask about that side of the story. I mean, I'll go back to when my parents got divorced, right? So mind you, seeing some disordered eating patterns from my mom from a very young age. When my parents got divorced, for me, it was a loss of like a sense of self, of identity. I was between 2nd and 3rd grade. It was that summer. I was going to a new school. So I lost my friend, my social support, all of my friends. Like I had one friend going to the same school with me. And then my parents got divorced and my dad moved out. And that day when my parents split, I'll never forget, we went fishing, which my dad doesn't fish. He brought my sister and I fishing. So I knew something was up. He told us he was moving out. Parents were getting divorced. Didn't 100% know what that meant, but I did know that he would be leaving. So I went home, and the way that I coped with the pain was I went in the fridge and I grabbed a pack of Kraft American singles, right? Like, 24 slices. And I went and I hid underneath the coffee table in the basement and I ate all 24 of them. And it was in a time when I really felt scared, anxious, depressed, all these different things, just being a child trying to navigate. That actually helped me feel grounded and in my body, just being filled up with, plastic fucking cheese, right? The most processed shit on earth. So that was kind of the start of it. That's the one that I recognize, like that was where things started. And then, like I mentioned, the behaviors I saw, right? Like my mom is fine with me sharing her story. She would binge eat every night. She wouldn't eat all day. And then starting at like 8 p.m., she would just feast, man. And I'm talking like bowls, like multiple bowls of cereal, like butter, bread, all this stuff, right? And I would see that, and she'd just feast from between like 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. every night. So I started doing the same thing. I mean, 1 a.m., a typical night for me in high school was I'd have football practice, whatever, go home, eat dinner, watch TV, play video games. And then at like 11 p.m., I'd probably make, 2 egg sandwiches. And then at 2 a.m., I would have, cereal with a bunch of bread and shit, go to bed around 3 and then wake up at 7 and do it all over again. So the combination of lack of sleep, really poor nutrition, highly processed foods, not to mention, probably 5,000 calories plus per day. It all adds up. So, and it all, again, a lot of it was me trying to fill this void that I felt in myself about, my parents. And then just a lot of it, I think, was confidence issues and just not, obviously those two things go hand in hand, right? Being unhealthy and not being confident. So it's kind of like a downward spiral of disease, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot you're putting in here that I'm following you, and I like it. So,
Yeah.
All right. One of the things I'm seeing is like, obviously we're going to get to the denial aspect, the suppression system that you had to use just to survive the madness. But also, like, maybe my brain's being a little funny right here. Like, here you are, you're in 2nd to 3rd grade. Your dad takes you fishing, which now you know something's fishy. All right, so here we are. Dad, something's up. Something's not right. I got a real question for you. Do you like fishing now?
Oh, I love fishing.
Look at that, man. Turn it around, huh? Because most people be like, nope, fishing means divorce.
Yeah. No, I don't do it a lot. I go usually twice a year. Like I said, I'm in Minnesota, so ice fishing once a year. And then we go camping on a camping trip with my fiance and her family once a year. So
does your fiance know that whenever you guys are going fishing, you're going to give her bad news?
Oh, man. Bad news in the best way. I deliver it in the best way.
Yeah. You're like, babe, we're going to go fishing. She's like, oh, shit.
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, I'd never even thought of that correlation. And I think actually it's interesting because, the environment can play a big factor in how we respond to these things. And the lake that we went fishing at, when he told me that, actually became kind of a safe haven for me when I was in middle school. I would go down there with my buddies and we would carp fishing and just spend our summers down there. So I'm happy that at least I was able to delineate that experience from maybe, having an environmental response to it every time I see that place. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect. I'm glad you did too, because like you had to find some place to cope.
Yep.
This is tough. Now, all right. So you went home and like getting the cheesiest response you could have when things were going wrong. And here you are under a table just crushing craft singles, mimicking the behavior that you've seen. And this is what happens oftentimes when we don't have the correct influence from both parents, is we're going to mimic the one that we're closest to. Yep. Now, when Dad left, was he gone, or was this like every other weekend thing?
It was every other weekend. It was Thursdays and every other weekend. And then, yeah, it's interesting. I like that you asked that question because even, to this day, we don't really necessarily have that really strong father-son relationship. And I found that in different ways, probably with some different people, but yeah, it definitely, and then it kind of phased out, right? So it was every other weekend as long as up until probably like 10th or 11th grade. And then I think then I just kind of stopped going over there. So.
Yeah, it makes sense because you had to start getting some control over this, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And so like this is pretty tough. It's tough all the way around because you work with men now. Mm-hmm. And so, it's like being like you watching guys on Dad's side going, man, I didn't want to lose my kids.
Right. 100%.
Like I can only see them on Thursday and I hardly see them. And when we do, it's like I'm missing 90% of my dude's life here. And so then when I do see him, it's like, I don't know what to do. Do you still eat ice cream? And you're like, Dad, I'm 15. I don't eat ice. I don't need to do that all the time. Like right. I'm not 8, it's like, it's pretty tough when you're the dad on that side, but you're not able to connect with them. Mm-hmm. And so there's that part. But here you are, now you're close to mom because mom's the only source of safety, security you have, right?
Yeah.
How does mom cope with things? Well, she eats.
Yeah.
And so how are you supposed to cope with things when you only have one influence?
That was what I had. And it's, talk about eating disorders. There could be a big case study just on my mom's case that you could study for years when it comes to secretive behavior, right? When it comes to choices of food, bulimia and anorexia, both like coexisting. It's pretty intense. And it's crazy to think back on how I lived, through basically my early college years and how, I tell like my fiance, for example, stories of how I used to operate. And she's like, it's just not normal. But for me, that was how it was, right? It was, I feel like probably the amygdala part of my brain, right? Fight or flight response was in overdrive. And every time I saw food, I felt like I had to eat all of it because it wasn't going to potentially be there later. So
Yeah, it's interesting because you say fight or flight, and almost all of this is flight.
mhm.
Because so people get it mixed up. I'm actually, this is in this next book I'm writing right now, is a big part of people call it trauma responses. This is your trauma response, Michael. It's not. It's just how your coping mechanism was set up. Like you just had to get to survive this. You had to figure out, I don't have control. How do I get control? And the one thing I can control is feeding myself. I can control trying to find some kind of pleasure in any way, shape, or form possible. And so the reality is you don't want to accept reality.
100%.
I don't want to deal with the reality of my life. This sucks. I'm going to go into video games. I'm going to go into food. I'm going to go into drinking. I'm going to go into partying. I'm going to go into anything except for what's really going on here.
Yeah. And I mean, those four you just mentioned were definitely the big four. Like going into, high school after I had that first knee surgery and the follow-up appointment. So I'm 17 years old, junior in high school. And the doctor says, yeah, you're not going to play sports anymore. Like football, hockey, baseball, you're done with those. Obviously you can still golf. And that sent me into like legit depression. And I wasn't an introverted depression. That wasn't how it manifested in me. I'm not even sure if if extroverted depression is a thing, but I hated being inside my own body so much as a kid that I would just try to make up for it by being friends with everyone. So I actually wound up, I was like homecoming king because I was literally, I loved school because it was social and I could be with everyone. But then I got home every night and I was by myself and it was just like torture within my own body. And then obviously too, I went to drinking, partying, those things. And then, going into college, I chose my college based upon where the most parties were at. So that was just how I coped.
Makes sense. I actually had a really good friend, ironically, his name was Michael too. It's really, really difficult is when the extroverted depression, is that a thing? Oh yeah, that's a thing. Especially when you're Big Mike. What's up, Big Mike? I know it was. I guarantee you it was Big Mike.
Big Mike.
Big Mike. It's really tough to break that identity. Because Big Mike is who I am. And people know me. And because they know me as Big Mike, you were probably the first guy to take your shirt off. Like, Big Mike is like, belly rubs. Big Mike is like, let's 100%. Go. Let's do the craziest shit. Big Mike would make jokes all the time. Big Mike was hilarious. And Big Mike, even though you would be like, I physically don't feel good in my body, would still get attention because you were a fun Big Mike.
For sure.
Well, what happens if you start getting rid of the big with Mike? And like, I've actually worked out with guys who are like, I want to lose the weight. But as soon as you started losing 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, you start seeing this like sabotage struggle because Big Mike is who I am. And I'm about to be Little Mike. And I don't know if I like that as much.
Yeah, man. The identity piece. It's funny you mentioned the Big Mike. I mean, all of my friends still probably from St. Cloud, that was who I was, right? And I will say that day that I mentioned, Wednesday, May 16, 2012, I had a decision in my mind, like I got to kill Big Mike, like legit murder that dude. And I'm happy I did. I love that you say that too, because like you said, it's almost like a built-in defense mechanism. This is my identity. People like me as this way. I don't like myself. I might as well stay this way though, because at least I'm getting attention for it.
It's a Joker mask, bro. We know that one. Listen, I think it's Lewis Howes gets into that stuff when he starts talking about like the different masks that we wear. You're like, underneath here is not happy, but outside is the guy everybody loves. Who wants to watch me slip and slide on the grass? Like, Big Mike.
Were you there? Were you at St. Cloud with us, man?
Man, listen. It's like I knew you already. Yeah, no, it's a real thing. So yeah, extroverted depression is a real thing, man. You're not crazy for that. It's a proper coping mechanism when it comes down to the denial aspect. And what people don't realize is almost all of this behavior when it comes to how we deal with stuff will usually fall into the very basic versions is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are the very, very basics, but they're far more in depth and they're connected to your grieving system. And this is why I'm writing this next book, is people haven't connected that your coping mechanisms is actually this. It's very similar to your grief cycle, and it's connected to it. You were grieving how many losses? Your dad, your livelihood, your friends, your health, you like, you name it. Go down the list of loss, 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 loss,
Yeah.
loss. And here you are in second and third grade. How the fuck are you supposed to deal with that?
Yeah. It's
In
a lot.
fact, none of the parents and none of the adults and any of your mentors know how to deal with it either. So I guess we're eating today.
It's all we can do, right? Keep clawing
Right.
back.
Well, that falls under the denial part. I can't accept the reality of what is. I'm in a war in my own mind with what is. In fact, I need to suppress all of these bad feelings. I got to push it down. And
Yeah.
tell me, how good would it feel if you were trying to talk to somebody who's also depressed about your depression? How well did that go?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I can't think of a specific experience I had around that.
Because did it even think that you're like, this is a good idea? I'll go talk to mom about my eating disorder. This should go well.
Right. No, definitely not.
Skip that. Skip that. I don't even want to play it.
Right.
You're not going to talk to mom or your dad about going through depression because they're in depression. That's the blind leading the blind. They're not going to help you out.
100%.
So you're like, I guess I'll just push that down too.
Yeah. That's wisdom, man. Appreciate that share. I've
Yeah.
never even considered that perspective.
What were your options, right?
Yep.
Well,
See what we
damn.
have to work with.
So here we are now. The only thing that seems to be working is if I'm not myself, then people like me. So I have to be fun Mike, big Mike, right? But inside of that, I can't talk to anybody about how terrible I feel. And honest answer, even if you were to try, do you really think people honestly cared?
You know, majority probably no. But I will say I had one friend in particular who genuinely cared when I did eventually start to open up about it, when I was 19, probably a freshman in college. And I will say he probably, for where I'm at now, it was a game changer. He helped me start to see different perspectives. But yeah, if I was to share it with, siblings or, other family members, and obviously my parents do it, it's not, everyone's just doing the best with what they've got. And to be able to have just one person, I think, who was able to see me and recognize the struggle I was going through, that was a game changer. And it's great you asked that question, because I think I did start to seek out help in different ways, not overtly asking for it. And then I did have one friend who saw that I was what I was asking for and actually started to help me out. So great question.
Yeah, thank God for that friend.
Yeah.
It's tough to find them, and a lot of people are so in their own thing and their own disability stuff. I would say disability as far as even physical. I mean, like their own protection mechanisms, their own safety protocols, their own coping systems, their own loss, their own grieving, their own fears, their own doubts, their own distractions, their own excuses. How are they supposed to see somebody else's?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so here we are. You're a young guy, and let's also get into it. What was the reason that you deserved love?
That's a great question. I think one, because I am a being of love and I have a lot of love to give. So I think that would be
Are you talking about now or when you were a teenage guy?
I'm talking probably when I was a teenage guy, as well as now. But I will say I've always been a kind-hearted, loving individual who always genuinely cared about people and how I made them feel and how they were able to, maybe feel comfortable or just confide, whatever it would be around me. That's always been an important thing for me. That's definitely a reason why, teenage Big Mike was worthy of love. That's the one that I got right now.
All right. So teenage Big Mike was really good at making other people feel appreciated, feel valued, feel liked, feel included. Big Mike was real good at liking other people and loving on other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did Big Mike not do that for Big Mike?
It's a great question. I probably because, me back then, I didn't think I was worthy of it for some reason. There it is.
So where was your worth for love coming from? If you're like, I don't believe I'm worthy of it, what made you worth loving? If you're like, I don't think I'm worthy of loving.
Yeah, nothing. If you don't love yourself, you can't be loved.
So shit. Here you are, a teenage guy. Now you also know the same thing where you see like Chris Rock did the reference, but it's been around way before Chris Rock. The whole thing where as a young man you can be loved for just being a little boy. You can be you're a little boy, we love you. Hey, you're a cute little kid. Yeah, I love you, little buddy. But then we also learn as our transition in our teenage years that well, a transition from little boy to man, we're no longer loved for just being a little boy. We're loved based on what we can provide. And now you have to change your entire identity to be valuable and
Mhm.
useful for more than just love me for who I am, which you wouldn't even do. So here we are. Now I also have to not only have no self worth and no self love, but also well, I have to be some high performing, valuable badass also, on top of hating the way that I am. How fun is this game?
It sounds like a game you can't win.
Seems like it. And
Yeah.
this is the part that I think when people are looking at young men who are struggling, when they're looking at young guys who are going through the shit, they're going through the ringer, they're not putting these pieces together. They're going, why don't you just stop it? Well, Big Mike's in a game he can't win. What are you talking about? Why doesn't he stop it? Stop what?
Yeah.
He does everything he can to make it so other people feel good because of how bad he feels being him. And even if you were good to him, he'd have a hard time truly accepting the worthiness of receiving it. On
100%.
top of that, you're not measuring his love and his heart based on who he is. It's based on what you can provide me. Safety, security, protection, like being a good provider, some sort of a status, some sort of, potential that he's going to bring to the table, which makes it even more difficult for you to be loved. And
It's a
this is
lot,
why
man.
guys struggle.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think I've done a lot of work to get to where I'm at right now. And glimpses of that Big Mike lifestyle still show up from time to
Uh-huh.
time. Um, and it can be tough. It can still be very, very tough to process those things and to have those beliefs. Not so often anymore, but they continue to want every so often they surface.
Yeah. You want to hear a fun piece before we get into your mastery?
I do.
So, obviously, the main coping mechanisms you were using was in distraction. That's retreat, hide, suppress. Or that's not distraction, denial. The denial system. Retreat, hide, suppress. That's the flight system, right?
Yep.
Now, when you start associating your enemy within stuff, you got fear, doubt, excuses, and you've got distractions. Well, the one that pairs up with denial is distractions the most. The reason why is denial dresses up as protection. In order to protect yourself from the reality that you had that you did not want to face, you created Big Mike, who is a fun persona who loves everybody and he's just cool to have around, makes everybody laugh. You got to love Big Mike, right?
Mhm.
But the reality was Big Mike doesn't like Big Mike, and that's why he has to be him.
Yeah.
So to even cope with that reality, I need to do anything to make myself feel good because I don't feel good. Enter craft slices or whatever it is, drinking, partying, being wild, like doing crazy stuff because Big Mike doesn't like Big Mike and I need to feel good. And
Yep.
distractions come in through your pleasure system. They come in through your feelings, and it's your pleasure feelings, your good feelings. No different than binge watching Netflix, doing drugs, porn,
Mhm.
shopping, like medication, you name it. So throw on top of that, they throw a bunch of meds on you because meds are the solution.
Yeah.
Distractions are drinking and medication. You have to do anything about the symptoms and never actually deal with why you don't like yourself. So here you are with I don't like me mixed in with anything that feels good. And you're wondering why mixing together denial and distractions is addiction.
There it is, right at the root. I
That's what it
mean,
is. If you're
yeah.
ever going to get rid of addiction, it's not dealing with symptoms, it's dealing with the part of the reality they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And this is why people don't want to do the work with somebody, is because I have to go into what part about your reality can you not accept that you need to find anything to make you feel good, no matter how much it tears you apart afterwards.
Hmm.
They end up visiting happiness. They visit it, which is supposed to be temporary to begin with. But like, you ever heard of the term? I heard it from David Goggins, where he talks about visiting discomfort. I think you'll appreciate this.
Uh, I know he talks about the light and the dark.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that kind of what you're getting at, or
no, this is different. So
okay?
when people visit discomfort, it's when let's say working out, for example. You know what I mean? Let's be moderate with this. Let's say you work out for 30 minutes a day. Hard workout, 30 minute hit workout, right? 30 minutes a day. Well, I'm just going to visit discomfort. It's uncomfortable. I'm sweating. I'm pushing myself. It's hard. Like I'm visiting discomfort for 30 minutes. But after a good hard workout, how do you feel?
Fantastic.
Feel great. So I visit discomfort for a small amount of time, but I feel good for a long period of time, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I don't want to visit discomfort and I seek some sort of pleasure, something like, a cake, or I eat some, drink some booze, or I do something that feels good for a little bit, how do you end up feeling afterwards?
Feel pretty shitty.
Right. So I visit pleasure and feel discomfort, but I visit discomfort and I feel pleasure for a long period.
I like it.
Yeah. And so it's interesting when we go down this system of seeking pleasure to not feel uncomfortable, but we get only a minute or two of feeling good and hours of feeling bad. Instead of visit discomfort and fight what's going on inside your mind for what you don't want to face, let's kill that thing. And then I no longer need to seek pleasure because I feel it all day.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, and I see, with the addiction piece too, right? When you're visiting pleasure, eventually what you used to visit for pleasure doesn't provide the same pleasure anymore.
It starts to keep you apart.
Yeah, it snowballs and it's more and more. And, before you know it, you're just completely lost. And then where do you go?
Well said, dude. Well said. Now let's get into mastery. So here we are. Now you've gone through hell. You know what hell feels like. You've been in hopeless situations, and people can now hear at least a little glimpse of like the real Mike, and not just, I lost 150 pounds and you can too on this amazing weight loss diet. Like the real Mike has gone through some shit. Real Mike knows what it's like to hate himself. Real Mike has lost a lot of stuff. Real Mike was trained in a way that made him hurt himself. Real Mike knows hell. So how do we help guys now who are also in hell? What do you do to make it so when I'm working with my men, I do this? And if you can give the guys like, this is how I do hope. What's your way? What's your method?
100%. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different places we can start with this one. One thing that I mentioned that I think is powerful is recognizing your identity and how you identify yourself, and creating a new identity and vision for how you want your life to look. For me, I did it kind of by accident that day when I went into the doctor's office and saw I was 375 pounds. I said, I have to leave that behind. Like, it's legitimately in my head, I was like, I got to kill whoever this old big Mike is, and come back as Michael, so to say. There's actually a lot of there is some evidence and research supporting the idea, especially when it comes to weight loss, that having that splitting of the identity and identifying a new self that you're going to live into actually makes a big difference. I think what you said too is really important when it comes to discomfort, and recognizing that you really got to be strategic, especially in the beginning, on how you get into it so that you don't just, fizzle out right away. What I do, so I'm a board certified health coach. What I do is mostly the psychology side of things. I have conversations and help people understand how to create their own healthy habits from the inside out that they can sustain. So you got to be able to push past that comfort zone, but in a way that you'll keep going back there, right? Because I see a lot of people who super motivated, they do, XYZ, overhaul their entire diet. They start, some crazy workout plan. And then in 2 weeks, they, don't see the progress they want to see, or it gets hard and they, miss day one. They say, I'll do it tomorrow. They wake up the next morning. Nah, I don't really feel like it. Then we're back to square one, if not receding, right? Because time is always going, right? So it's a delicate balance there. I think obviously everything is contextual, depends exactly where someone's at, what they've tried. Something that I also work a lot with people is like food addiction, which is what I was dealing with, right? Like there's a whole sub-tangent story about my fast food addiction we didn't even talk about. But how do you address that in a way where it's going to be sustainable long term? That's what it all comes down to, right? If you're going to make a transformation, I don't care, for example, a diet. If you can do a diet for a week, great. Month, cool. Year, okay, great. But how about 10 years, right? Can you actually visualize and see yourself still doing this? If not, I would just encourage you to maybe try something else out. And that's a very simple surface level example. A lot of the work that I do, it goes a little bit deeper than that. But does that answer your question?
Hey, this is your world. If it answers it for you, then yes.
For sure. Yeah. So
I think it's interesting. You brought up some stuff here. There's a couple pieces I'm going to dig in a little bit because like we know, like you and I both know, like your answer is the answer, but it's not the solution. Like this is what the answer is. I have a whole program that tells you how you actually get there.
Right.
But this is like the answer is you have to change your identity, doing the personification of what it is for the things that you're separating yourself from. We're going to get into motivation and then the long term, short term, overestimate and delivery. Let's get back into the existential moment of rock bottom.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. Even in my first book, I write about rock bottom, which I need to go further. I'm rewriting pieces of this because I'm like, it needs to really be hammered. People avoid rock bottom at all costs, but it's the most powerful damn day of your life.
Absolutely.
We try to avoid, like, I don't want to have to deal with the reality because that's the very moment where it becomes cognitive dissonance. That's the moment where my head and my heart are now fighting. Like, I know that this is wrong, but I'm still doing it. But I know that it's wrong. But now I'm fighting to do it or not do it. Like, it starts becoming a struggle until you hit that moment where you're like, I absolutely can't do this anymore.
Yep.
I can't do it anymore. There's a point where my shit is bullshit and we get sick of our own shit. We get sick of it. We get tired of our own stuff. And we need that moment. We need it. And I'm glad when people are like, man, you're going to the doctor and you found out you're 375. How did you feel? You're like, I felt like the worst I've ever felt. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you felt the worst you've ever felt because now your choice has become absolute. You cannot hide from your decision anymore. So now that you hate how this path is taking you, you want to keep going on this path or we're going to go this one over here? And you're like, I hate this one now. I can't fight that I hate it. I hate it. Where's this path go? I'm like, better. Like, I don't even know what that means. Okay. This is guaranteed not good. So you say it's better. I can't see it, but let's do it. People underestimate rock bottom, man. I hope that everybody has the worst day ever. So they stop doing the shit that makes the worst day ever.
Absolutely. It's that term too, rock bottom. I think that's in my practice, in my coaching, I sometimes use it, sometimes I don't, but it really is, it's that moment where you're like, no, right? Like I can't fucking do this anymore. And that was legitimately my 20 years of wisdom sitting in that doctor's office with the blood pressure cuff still on my arm. I'm like, if I don't do something, I'm going to fucking die. Yes. And that's, I don't know if everyone has to get exactly to the moment of like life or death, but I do think that there's power in getting to that point where you're like, enough is enough. Like I simply, there is no way, if I want any ounce of, anything that I want for this life, no matter what it is, I got to change now. And I think having that moment is such a powerful thing. I love the way that you said it. I love that you say you hope, right? Because, if you think about everyone who's gone through those types of moments, right? Even Goggins, for an example that you brought up, imagine like the gifts that would be held back from the world if we didn't have those awakening type of moments for people across the board, right? So,
who are our heroes? Like this is something that I get into this too in my first book, is like we talk about our heroes. What makes a hero? A hero, people forget, is defined. They are defined by what they have to face. It's the villain. This is why Superman struggled for a long time to sell comics. If Superman stops bank robbers, so what? Like, of course, they can't even hurt him. Like, of course he stopped bank robbers. Next. Like, it's boring. You can't stop him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, like, it's Superman. So then the only thing Superman can fight is a global catastrophe. Well, I can't have a global catastrophe every 48 hours. It gets a little boring after a while. Oh, another alien attack that's going to take over the planet again. Oh, another world domination scheme again. Like, it can only be so much until you're like, okay, I'm going to Batman because at least he has to fight some real shit. And he could lose. He's a regular dude. So that's different. Like, this gets into the same thing where when people have to face, like, their toughest villain inside of themselves, you have to face the hardest thing. And so for you to go, I had to fight the fucking toughest demon in my life, and it was inside me. And when I fought that thing and I started fighting back, then people go, damn, Mike, you're a badass, dude. You're in the battlefield of the mind. You're fighting the thing inside of you. And you're like, I had to separate. Big Mike is not Michael. That's a persona that exists because I was tormented. I did not know how to face the reality of what my existence was. I couldn't face it. And so I created him to survive. But now he's killing us. And I have to get rid of him. I got to fight him out. I got to beat that back. And this is what makes you a champion. This is the heroic part. It's not the weight loss. It's because you'll face a fucking demon and fight. Good on you, bro. That's warrior shit. That's where I see the warrior. It's not because you lost weight. Good on you, man. Fine. It's because you fought the thing that made it so you gained weight because you hated yourself. That's a battle. Absolutely. The stuff that you had as a kid, that's a battle. So I'm proud of you on that one. Testified on that one. That's where I'll go. Michael's my dude. I don't appreciate it, Rick. I'll be real with you, man. If you didn't gain the weight, you wouldn't have to lose it. No, that's not what it was. Losing Big Mike was way tougher than the weight.
Yeah. I think something that you alluded to in there as well, that, no matter where we're at, we can always, a lot of us get to that point, and I feel like I'm pretty close right now. And a lot of people I know who want to step into their own heroic journey and step into their own livelihood is like that radical honesty with yourself, as well as with everyone around you, but especially with yourself. Looking back and reflecting on it, like I was lying to myself back then, right? Like, you look in the mirror and maybe like change the shirt a little bit, like, oh, it's not that bad. And, step on the scale and okay, like it's really not, like maybe the scale's off, things like that. And like, you just, you lie and you lie and you lie to yourself. And I mean, with the way I ate too, I would lie to, all my friends, my family, right? Like secretively eating, binge eating constantly to try and again, fill the void, to try and feel whole in my being. So that was also the day that May 16th, 2012, that was the day when I was like, from here on in, like you got to be radically honest with yourself. And that I think that has made the biggest change in everything in my life.
Yeah, it's powerful. People can't do it though. You're getting into my world here. You ready? We're gonna go a little in there. If you're cool with it, let's do it.
100%. Yeah.
The reality is today people can't handle the truth. They can't. Now, truth is also subjective. I don't think people understand that, and they've known this for thousands of years. Even like Marcus Aurelius, King of Rome, 2,000 years ago, even he was writing, everything that we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Now, I'm going to circle back to the truth in a second here. It's not a real thing. Truth is subjective. Your point of view and my point of view on the same exact thing is different. Even when I do the thing where I'm like, what number is this?
9.
Well, to me, it's a 6. So who's right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's a point thing. And some people are like, I don't know those numbers. That's a music note. And some people are like, I see the letter B. Yeah. It's all perspective. It's the same shape, but we're calling it different things. Who's right? Who's wrong? Technically, everyone is right. Everyone is wrong. Mm-hmm. Because it's all subjective. Now, this gets into the next part. You're lying to yourself. Why do people lie for the most part?
To hide something?
It's one thing. Why are we hiding?
It's a good question. Because we're hiding because we're scared of who we really are.
All right, scared. And what happens if people know who we really are?
Then we got to face it.
Shit. And I don't want to face that. That sucks. Yeah. So that means I'm trying to protect myself. Most of the time when it's not a manipulative point of view, which is more rare than common, is when people are manipulative and shitty and they lie to just hurt people, which happens. Don't think it doesn't. But a majority of lying, especially little kids and being a young man trying to survive, your lies were not to manipulate and hurt people. Your lies were to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. And most people lie to protect yourself. You ever been in a situation where like somebody did some bullshit and then someone's like, who did this? Who did this? And you know who did it. That's your boy. Your boy Tommy did that shit. You know who did it. And you're like, I don't know who did that. I don't even know. I have no idea. That's news to me. I have no idea. You watched him do it. And you're like, don't ask me. I don't know. Why were you lying? I'm protecting Tommy. Mm-hmm. So are you telling the truth? Hell no, I'm not telling the truth. But is your intention malicious? No, I'm trying to protect my boy. I'm trying to protect myself. Most people lie to not get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So that's most. Now there's shitty people. I'm not, again, yeah, but that's not always. You know, when people speak in absolutes, it's really frustrating to me. Yeah, but there's an exception to all the rules. I know this, but a majority of it is protection. There's manipulative people. I know. I get it. There's narcissists. I know. I
Mm-hmm.
know. But it's not everybody. According to Facebook, it is. But aside from social media, it's not everybody who's a narcissist. It's a very, very small percentage of people.
Right.
In any case, people are lying all the time to protect themselves. Now, let's get back to I have to lie because I can't accept the truth. And the reality is, for most people, they can't. They can't. They say they can. My stepdaughter actually made a good point. I watched a video of a woman saying women can't handle the truth. It was a woman saying it, so go ahead and say what you want, ladies. Actually, on this podcast, it's probably just the guys at this point anyways. In any case, say what you say, ladies. You can't handle the truth. Because what do? Do you have a conversation and try and seek empathy and compassion and understanding? Or do you go into condemnation, protect yourself, start setting up plans, you start condemning, ridiculing, tearing somebody apart? How do you handle the truth? Go right into safety, security. I protect myself. I'm going to tear you apart so I'm okay. Well, you can't handle the truth. It's not a conversation at that point.
Right.
But it means you can't. So he can't tell you the truth because you can't handle it. Does that mean my boy is lying to me? It means he's not telling you everything, because if he did, you'd punish him for telling the truth, even if it wasn't bad. I remember one time, dude, this is me getting in the weeds. You can stop me anytime.
No, you're good.
I had a girlfriend who I was with. I was like early 20s, just like you, early 20. And there was like a situation where a girl was coming on to me and she was like, hey, I really like you and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, realized as she was coming on to me. And I'm like, no. Even if you were trying, I'm really, I like my girl I'm with. That's my person. I like her. And I told her, I was like, when another girl was trying, it just made me realize how much more I care about you. And she was like, who is this bitch who's trying? What's going on with her? Why was she even talking to you? Give me her number. I'm going to find out what's going on here. I'm getting into this. And she started creating this whole huge drama thing when the whole point of it is, no, I choose you. You're my person. Turned into this massive ordeal of like threats, ultimatums, drama, and all these issues. Now I know people are like, oh, she had a lot of issues. Yeah, we were young. But that truth, that really worked out well, didn't it?
Right.
I could have just said, like, you know what, babe, I really appreciate and love you, and left it there, and that would have been fine.
Right.
So this is where, like, why do we not tell the whole truth? Is because you can't handle the truth without a conversation. It's going to end up being this huge ordeal. Who trained us to do that, ladies? You did. Go ahead and get mad in the mirror if you want to. If you want to get mad in the mirror, go for it. Because you can't handle it. So you can't handle your own. You're going to make up all these justifications why it's okay that you do what you do, that you hate done to others. Like you hate it if somebody does to you. Hate it. So anyways.
100%. Yeah,
all right, so let's get back. That. People can't handle the truth, man. There's no such thing as the truth. And this is where it gets to the last part, is what is the truth beyond an agreement? That's it. That's all truths are. You know, truths are, your belief systems are based on what you believe are true, right? But do you actually require facts to create a belief system? You actually don't. You do not need any facts to create a belief system. Interesting that we live and die by our beliefs, even though we don't have to have a single fact to create one.
100%.
Now here we are with your entire belief system of protecting yourself as Big Mike, lying to yourself, so that way you can feel like you're still okay to be alive. And the entire system is based on lies. And I'm just making it through. Can't accept the truth. So this is where I like those rock bottom moments when you're like, you got to quit lying, man. I can't lie anymore. I can't protect myself this way. This is why I'm just pointing out again, denial was your safety system. And the reality is, it is most people's reality is it's fake. Most people wear a persona, they wear makeup, they wear the mask that protects them. They're either the athlete, the funny guy, the badass, or they're the pretty girl, or the makeup with the contour, or they're the outfit and the persona, or the cheerleader, or whatever you call it. You act as though you're going to be something you're not, so that way you're approved of and accepted, but we're not accepting the truth in order to be that. In fact, authenticity is fucking terrifying.
Without a doubt. It's interesting you mentioned there's so many archetypes to the type of denial character that we live into, right? Um, but what does it mean to be your authentic self? Then you're creating a different identity, one that's unique, right? One that, through the vulnerability of being your authentic self, allows you to share gifts with the world, not be held back. It's powerful. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate this, Rick. This has been, yeah, this is awesome. Let's keep going.
Yeah, dude. I always like that too. One of the things with self love is having the courage to accept your authenticity, even if other people won't.
Yeah.
And that's a scary sentence, man. Because it's one thing to get rejected when you're Big Mike. It's another thing to get rejected as you. Because
And it
Big Mike's
happens.
like, hey, that's fucking crazy. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And Big Mike don't give a fuck. But Michael's like, yeah, it makes sense they don't like me. I don't either.
Yeah.
Well, that's way less fun. That wasn't funny at all. Reality is a little bit different on that one. Now, also, our reality is structured around an entire system of our perception because we
Mhm.
add a lot to stuff.
Right.
Almost all of our experiences are 70% wrong when we recall them. If you really they did a lot of studies on this, and the most accurate people were 30% correct. The most accurate, not the average.
Yeah.
The most accurate was 30% correct. That means if you recall the memories, it's 70% incorrect. And that's the best recall you can do.
Yeah.
You won't remember the details on these things. What book was on the coffee table? What color was the coffee cup? What color, what outfit was the other person wearing who was there? You're like, I don't remember they were even there. All I remember was how angry that person was, and I don't remember what else was on that round. Like, we can't remember that much. They did that with 9/11, and
Okay.
they said, where were you on 9/11, and explain it. And then they would cross-reference people's stories with the reality of, like, here's the videos and here's the map where they're at. And they're like, I remember looking out the window and seeing the smoke go down the river. And they're like, well, the location that you were in was here, but the smoke was going the other way. But if you associate watching the news and seeing the smoke and then looking out, and like, I was in this location, now our brain puts those two memories together.
Right.
And so, like, actually you were not downwind, you were the opposite direction, but you put that memory together to make it so it was a new memory.
Yeah. And trying to consciously recall any sort of event when the majority of how we perceive it is subconscious, right? Like we're only
Mm-hmm.
only intaking so many bits of information per second. It's impossible to keep it
Correct.
all straight. I didn't know that 30% statistic, but it makes a lot of sense. And then, like you're saying, all of our lived experience and our memories to this point is going to essentially filter the quote unquote truth and the way that we perceive what's coming at us. And that's in turn going to dictate how we respond to it. And how do you, yeah, so then what do you do? I mean, how do you, I guess I might think I know a little bit, but how do you delineate between what you think you know and a current stimuli and then what to do going forward from that? Right.
You're getting into control, and I actually
Okay.
like that. Control is at the core of all of these things. The reason you even had to create Big Mike is because you didn't have control. You didn't know how to go through your grieving cycle correctly. You got stuck in denial. And then tell me you didn't start going back. You started getting stuck in there for a long time. So the grieving cycle. You go through denial, bargaining, anger, and depression.
Yep.
That's the system that's in there. Now, is it in order? No. You just keep bouncing back and forth, back and forth. 1 second you're really freaking angry, and then you're going to eat your way out of it, and then you're going to be really, really sad, and then you're like, oh, if only I didn't do that, I'd be fine, but I did, so now I'm angry again, so I don't want to think about this. I'm going to play video games, but then I'm realizing how alone I am because everyone went to bed and I'm still awake, so I'm really bummed out. So then I'm going to go eat some more, and then I'm like, oh, if only I didn't do that, I'd be able to get some sleep, but I'm not going to get some sleep, so now I'm pissed again. Like, we just bounce back and forth in this thing for our whole lives if we don't hit rock bottom, never realizing the finish line is actually acceptance in all these things. But
Yeah.
denial is going to protect you. It's the Trojan horse. It says we don't want to deal with authenticity. We don't want to deal with accountability. We don't want to deal with any of that because it sucks. So let's level up a video game character and then drink on the side. Fuck it.
Yeah, man. It's it's interesting. to hear it from this perspective. I personally have never done this deep of processing or thinking about it this way, and it's really easy to see it and to see how it plays out in, especially like on social media, and to
Hmm.
see, loved ones, friends, family, and stuff. Um, you know, I'm curious then, how do we continue to break the cycle, right? Because not everyone's going to come and have these conversations.
Sure. Well, that's why
Not
we get to
everyone's going to
record
sign up to
them.
work with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we get to record these conversations so people can hear our big brains working together on this stuff.
Yeah, man.
So, what's funny about control is it's ironic that if you look at the people who have ever been at the highest level of ascension for like being, I don't care if it's a Dalai Lama, Buddha, Jesus, pick one, I don't care. People who are like, that's a pinnacle of like some, Buddhist monk who's Shaolin master or something, this Miyamoto Musashi samurai character who has found peace in the garden, like whatever that is. Well, if you get down to the system of control, if you look at the happiest people, they don't try to control everything. Yet the people who are the most anxious, angry, frustrated, the most high energy, like, what the fuck, those people need to control everything, even to the point of what other people are allowed to see or perceive of them. I'm going to give you the persona that I want you to believe that I am, so that way I can control how you see me. This is the mask that you were wearing, Big Mike, right? I'm going to control what you see me because you can't really see me. And if you met someone who's been through it, those masks don't work. You've seen Dexter before, right?
I have not.
Okay, so this is this short synopsis. It's a guy whose brain is screwed up and he's a serial killer, so he understands what a psychopath's camouflage looks like, so he can identify other psychopaths and serial killers
Right.
because their camouflage is top notch.
Yeah.
And so, like, if most people would never identify a psychopath because they're usually high functioning, societal figures, people
Yep.
who are doing really, really well. You wouldn't know. But he's like, I am one, so I can see through your camouflage. It's the same thing with people who have been through hell. People
Absolutely.
who don't understand will see Big Mike and think he's a party animal. But someone like me would be like, damn, bro, you're fucking hurting.
Right.
And you're like, I don't want you to see that. I'm like, you're trying to control what I can see, but I see through your control system. Now, this is where, what do? Acceptance is still the answer. Now, it's not easy. You have to go through grief, man. You got to go through all the mourning on all these different things. Dad leaving, the divorce, the way your lifestyle went, the broken bones, the emotional eating, the loss of your friends. You got to go through the whole list, and each one's a different fight. That's the battlefield of the mind, bro. You can't read that in a book. It's only found when you're in the conflict. You got to go through each thing, though. I got to go through the reality of what is. That happened. Okay, got it. Then I got to go into the reality for bargaining. You know what? It's not about what if I would have done something different. It's not about if another person did something different. It's not about the fantasies that I would create to create rose-colored glasses with all my red flags. It's not about that. Because the reality is, I got to face what is. And then we got to go into anger. And the three different main categories for anger are people are either getting pissed off because something was taken or lost, like dad, the stable lifestyle you had, your health, your friends, something's taken or lost. The second category is injustice or unfairness. That's wrong. That's wrong. I'm not standing by for that. No, that's fucked up. I'm not sitting around for that. And the last one is unmet needs. And how many unmet needs that young man have? To feel appreciated, loved, heard, valued, needed.
Right.
Didn't have any of those. No wonder you were angry, but you weren't good at being angry. Big Mike wasn't an angry guy, so he would shove that into being funny. He turned that into the denial piece. Your survival system for your emotions then would go there. How often did Big Mike want to cry in front of everybody?
Every day.
Yeah, but how much did Big Mike cry in front of everybody?
Not once.
Exactly. So here I am now converting my sadness and my anger over into the mask that created Big Mike. That's the Joker mask, the funny guy, fat guy, right?
Yep.
Well, this is what's funny about this. If you're suppressing the parts of you with denial, and this is called denial as acceptance, this is where I use denial to say that I'm good. Like, is what it is. Can't change it now. Hey, whatever, right? Shit happens. That's denial as acceptance. It's a very good ploy because people will have the perception that you actually did acceptance, even though you didn't go through anger and sadness, which means you suppress that until it explodes. Suppression leads to expression, which means now Mike's a powder keg until you hit either mad sadness or you get real fucking angry one day and lose it. Well, nowadays, if people don't know how to go through their grieving cycle correctly, it's called bipolar disorder. No, you're just not grieving correctly. You're using it is what it is to say I have acceptance when you're not going through anger. You're not going through sadness to actually have true acceptance. So since I'm suppressing these two emotions, it turns into an explosion at some point. And if you can't even begin to have an explosion because you have so much shame in your system, suicide makes a lot more fucking sense all of a sudden.
Yeah.
If nobody gives a shit, what's the point? I don't see hope anymore. And even if I did have an outburst, nobody would care anyways. This is a fun system. Being a man. Men have all the luck. So this is the system that we create. How fun, man. This is their grieving system. This is why we have to train. How do we grieve appropriately? Now, good news is this is skills. Mm-hmm. This isn't like you're born with that. No, this is a system that we use to survive, but it's also trainable. Each one of these has strengths and weaknesses, and each one has a positive version and a negative version. Denial is actually not bad. If you're having a day at work, you're going through work, and then, your girl sends you a message like, hey, bad shit just happened. Like, it's not good. We'll have to talk later. And you're like, I still got 4 hours, and I'm with these clients. I got to finish this day. So I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to compartmentalize that for later. Finish what I'm doing, and then I'll come back to that in 4 hours. Well, that's technically denial, but it's denial on purpose. There's a purpose for that, and I did it deliberately with intent to get to it, and now that's a healthy time to work on it. Positive version. Other person is suppress that down, and I don't want to talk about that ever. Let's never talk about that ever again. Ever. Well, that's unhealthy version. Right. So yeah, it's not that you're crazy.
Can be used strategically. Right. To be able to, and like you said, too, especially if there's other people who are relying on you, who count on you, to be able to have that boundary to come back to something later.
Hell yeah.
And maybe it gives you spaciousness to, I don't know, process. I guess if you haven't had that conversation in that context, you don't really know what to expect. Right. But right. I hear you. No, that's powerful strategy, too.
Yeah, so I can go all day. This is, like I said, my next book is in this. I'm a little passionate about this style.
I like it.
But I saw Big Mike suffering, man. And this is why we do what we do. You can see the part of me that's like, man, I just want to fucking go get Big Mike. Like, I see Absolutely. You, bro. I see you. I'm going to come get you. And I think this is where you've gotten into what you do is you see people, man. You're like, I see you.
Yeah. Now you brought up that point about being able to kind of see through the mask. And I think there comes a point when people realize that they got to take it off and just become who they are. So many people go through life thinking they're living for some XYZ reason, but realize they've never actually lived a day in their life because they just aren't in tune with who they really are. And I think the more, especially men, can do that. I think with the way masculinity has been talked about over the last, we'll say, decade plus, and the way that it's been given a lot of stigma, and it's really left a lot of guys in a tough place, seeking again, trying to figure out who they really are, and how they show up. So important conversations.
Let's do it. I got an hour. Let's do it. So there's another, you just said not living a day in their life. This is why it's important to understand how denial and distraction combo works. This is why I'm bringing this up, because this is a majority one. This is the addiction formula. And Big Mike was in this. This is why it's important in this conversation. Distractions will have you create the persona so you can survive. Or no, denial creates the persona, and distractions gives you the pleasure so you don't have to sit in the discomfort only, right? Distractions, if this were like a cookie monster, like if distractions was a cookie monster, call it social media, call it Netflix, call it any of your drinking, call it partying, call it porn, call it anything. I don't care what you do. Shopping nonstop, Amazon Prime Day. I don't give a fuck. Call it whatever you want. How many minutes, if this was like the Cookie Monster of minutes, does that monster have the capacity to take?
In an hour?
No.
60.
Just period. Like how many hours of the day do you think this thing could handle and still want more?
Oh yeah, it would never stop, right?
It's like a
There's no
bottomless
limit.
monster. This thing's like it would just eat all of your minutes, and it's happy to. I call distractions the magician because it wants to show you something that you love, but it's going to take you off course for your purpose.
Right.
Les Brown says we're the busiest humans who have ever lived, but we are not productive. Everyone's so busy, but I'm like, let me see your screen time. And you're like, you got 4 hours of social media today.
Right.
You weren't busy. You just prioritized Facebook or TikTok or some shit today. No, you're not busy. You were just doing stuff to be distracted.
100%.
And so this is an endless thing. So if you look at this endless, like this endless bottomless pit monster that wants to eat your minutes, what system of measurement do we use for life? Like your life, how long you lived? What's our measurement system?
Years.
Yeah. Years. And years is what?
For me, 31.
Well, no. I don't mean how long have you lived. I just mean like what is years? What is that system?
Oh yeah, Earth going around the sun.
You're hilarious. It's time. It's how we measure time.
Time linear? I don't know. Different conversation.
Well, yes, we can get esoteric if you like. We can get into some 5D stuff. But
time.
So we measure it in time, and we measure life in time. And what is this thing that wants to eat your minutes? It wants to take your what?
It wants to take your joy, your happiness, your life.
Oh, no. It wants to give you joy, happiness, but it will take your life.
Yeah.
It wants to give you. Remember, it's distracting you through pleasure. Pick a card. Pick a card, Mike. I bet you I can find your card.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you can't. I'm like, stop going to work. Pick a card. I got you. It's good. You're going to love this trick. You're going to love this trick.
Okay.
Like, okay, here you are picking a card. Now I got you. I'm going to have you captivated as long as I can. This is distractions. I'm going to try and make it so you're doing something you like, something that's fun, something that you enjoy, but I'm going to keep taking you off your purpose.
Right.
I'm going to keep taking you off your goal. I'm going to keep taking you off of what it is you need to be doing because you're doing something fun that you wanted to do without moderation, without discipline, right? So it wants to take your minutes, and we measure our life in minutes, in hours, or we measure it in time. Well, that means it wants to take your life. That's what it wants to take. It wants to take your life. As much of it as you'll give, it'll take it. Mm-hmm. Now let's go back into denial. I'm living my life as a different person. Well, if you're not living authentically as yourself, and then you're giving away all your other minutes to things that make you find some temporary moment of happiness because you can't deal with your reality, how much of your life have you actually lived? Right. You've never actually lived a life as yourself. How many years do you want to give to this system? This is imposter syndrome, by the way. The way that we have it structured is I've given all of my life to being my different masks and personas, and I've never been myself. And at some point you outgrow your mask and it starts to crack, and then you can't be that anymore because people start seeing through it.
Absolutely.
So that's fun. People don't live the day in their life as themselves, and yet they're wondering why people don't love them.
For sure.
Well, you don't. How can they?
Mm-hmm.
Big expectation.
I think what you said there too about like it wants to steal your life, right? Your time. I differentiate between pleasure and joy, right? Because I feel like true joy is when you're living, being authentic in whatever moment that you're in and just fully experiencing it and not trying to hide. Whereas pleasure, like you've been saying, that's the mask and the thing that's fed the most, right? So I think differentiating maybe between those two things.
Oh yeah, dude. Well said. Well said. Yeah. I hear you there. That's good. Let's switch over a little bit now. Yeah. I want to get to motivation too, because I think you're going to have a good piece for that. But you talked about masculinity these days, and I'll be open with you, man. And this is something I think that I'm glad that I'm not as plugged in because I'm not seeing those attacks as much. But I also work with men. We have our group of men. Like, this is alphas collaborating, black box theory, that like the guys who are together, the guys who work together to collaborate together, they don't take these hits that society is doing on masculinity. We as a herd, as a pack, like you just can't fuck with us. And so like if
Right.
someone's like Mike and Rick are hanging together and they're like, you guys are terrible because you're strong. And we're like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Thanks. Like we don't care. And then we'll go to the gym. Like, I don't give a shit. Together we're too strong. And so tell me what it is that you're seeing with these guys with masculinity. Let's see if I can like cross reference some of the things that I know with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm of the same belief as you, right? I think masculinity is such an important thing, and to be masculine, to be strong, to be a leader, to be provider, that type of thing is super important. And I feel like there's been a lot of messaging around now the common phrase, the whole toxic masculinity thing. I think that has been taken it's been taken too far in what people are saying. If you look on social media, for example, and even articles that people are writing, and the thing that gets me is that a lot of the people who are consuming that are going to be, middle school, high school age kids, and they have a fragmented idea of what it means to be masculine, and now they're being told that it's toxic and that it's not healthy, when that we know the opposite is true, and that we need strong masculine men to help, build things, to lead, to run a country, right? Like, women obviously have a role in that too, but men especially. And it's frustrating to me because I've been on both sides of it, and I guess I've seen both sides of it. And I just know that, for example, for me, right, I'm a stepdad. So setting an example as being a strong masculine man for the boys who are my stepsons is super important. But I don't know if that's the majority of what's currently out there. If that makes sense. Maybe we're tiptoeing around a deeper topic here, but yeah,
Maybe.
that's my perspective. What do you think?
So I'm honored to you for being a stepdad to begin with, because like step parent, stepmom, stepdad, fucking hardest job. Like
Yeah.
props to all step parents out there, because like they do not get the respect and love or honor that they deserve. It's a volunteer job that we're raising somebody else's kids, and then we get 1/10 of the love and appreciation for doing it.
Yeah. It's
Listen, props to
yeah.
all step parents. like like if you're with a partner who chose you and your children, you love them double. Stop complaining about the fucking laundry. Like, love that person double, because they volunteered to raise your kids. They didn't have to.
Mhm.
So huge props to all of them, stepmoms, stepdads, everybody. But when it comes to that, like being strong, like you are being a strong role model of what a good masculine man is, healthy masculine. Like, this
Right.
isn't like a dictator who everyone better be obedient or you get the backhand. Like, this isn't what we're talking about. No, we're
Right.
talking about being solid, strong, stoic, handling your business, fix it when it's broken. Like, support the people when they're going down. Be happy to provide. It brings fulfillment to give. Men are givers. And the more we are capable of giving, the better that we feel. So the stronger, more proficient, more effective, the more productive, the better we feel, because we
Mhm.
can give more. People forget that women are designed to be receivers. They're designed to take. Now, this works really well when there's a hunter-gatherer and then, we give and you distribute. This is a good teamwork. It's been like that for thousands and thousands of years, maybe even millions. I don't know. I wasn't
Right.
there. But I do know that there's a human design that we like to go out and do the heavy lifting and the hard shit. And then we bring that to the women, and then they work on the stuff to distribute and make sure the community and everybody is taken care of. We are a social creature.
100%.
And so, what's even more funny, this is something people don't remember. I had Dr. Saperstein I was just talking to reminded me of this. He's like, if we were to be classified in the animal kingdom, are we predators or are we prey?
Predators? I would want to say predators, right? We got
Oh,
forward eyes.
we fucking wish we were. How sharp are your teeth?
Probably not sharp enough.
Yeah. What kind of claws do we have?
Ones that got a clip. Don't
Yeah.
get a hangnail.
We don't have claws. We don't have canine teeth. We don't kill something and eat it as raw meat. We're prey animal, bro. We're herd animal. We're social creatures.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't mean weak, though, because, like, buffalo, if you take a bunch of buffalo and they make that phalanx circle around the babies, the wolves quit.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean because we're a herd animal or we're a prey animal that we are weak. But we're not a tough animal. In the animal kingdom, we are not a tough animal. We're just not. We're very vulnerable. You know, and so because of our technology and our brains is the only reason we've even been fortunate enough to get out of the food chain, which, again, we're not as thankful for as we fucking should be.
Right.
Everything else in the food chain, you know how it dies? Like, that's how it gets killed. Something starts ripping it apart, you know, so that's not fun. Sure. So we're the only creature that gets to, like, I had a good life. I love you all.
Yeah.
Like, we're the only creature that dies in a hospital bed with our family around us. We're the only one. So anyways, aside from that, here we are. We now have to be strong, masculine, like herd leaders. We have to be pack leaders. Now, whenever you see the herd, how do the predators get like a kill? What do they have to do whenever they're chasing the herd?
How do they take down the weakest one?
They got to single one out. They got to get one away from the pack. They got to get one away from the group.
Right.
Isolation with men is one of the toughest fucking things that we have, because we're told today that you're supposed to be a lone wolf, but you're not a wolf. We wish we were wolves, some badass wolf, but lone wolves often die also. Lone wolves don't make it as well as you think. It's very rare a lone wolf survives. It can't hunt by itself, not nearly as well. But even still, you're not a lone wolf. You're a lone buffalo, or you're a lone water bison. Like, you're alone, which makes you vulnerable to attacks. Now, what are the attacks? Well, you're seeing on social media, it's blame, shame, judgment, guilt. And so if you're isolated and you're alone and you think it's all on you, and there is no empathy for men, and it's not even a race thing, it's just men. No empathy, none. I don't care about your feelings. If you saw a guy going, I'm having this a really tough time, I'm really having a struggle, they're like, stop crying and get your work done, man. Oh,
right.
Okay. Man up. Stop being a bitch. Right? What is that? No, it's a human being.
Right.
Just like he used to be a little boy, but now as a man, it's just, what do you provide? So now he's separated from the pack. You take COVID and how it isolated everybody and make it so people were stuck at home and didn't have any connection to people. Now you got a bunch of isolated guys who at home are blamed, shamed, and judged just for being. And nobody cares about what they have to say or feel.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder they're getting their asses kicked. Now, if you take all of these lone wolves or all of these guys who are isolated and you put us all together and we all keep building on each other, we go, hey, Mike, this is what I found has worked for me and this has made me a more productive leader. You're like, that's useful. I can use that piece. But hey, Rick, here's what I learned and here's what's helped me. I'm like, damn, Mike, good call. I can use that too. And now here we are, stronger together. And so I'm sharing my things that have worked. You're sharing your things that have worked. And then we're taking it back to our packs and we're making it so our families are stronger. This is good because men are also social animals. We are also pack animals. Now, we can take wolves, we can take lions, we can do that because we got the top of the food chain because we got, guns and shit. So fuck yeah. So in any case, I mean, we're bunnies with guns. Let's call it what it is, but we'll call it lions.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're lions then. We'll put on a lion outfit. I don't care.
Yeah.
And so here we are now is the guys who are able to team up, just like the Warriors Way or the guys who work with you, the guys who can team up. Well, now if I say, hey, Michael, you're a piece of shit because you're strong and you're hanging out with all your guys and you're like,
right.
That's stupid, Mike. Let's go work out. That's silly, bro. Like, they can't stop you unless you stop you.
100%.
And if you're isolated, it's easy to pick you off because you can't defend yourself because you don't have the rest of the herd to have your back. Absolutely. This is why men right now are unifying. All men. This isn't
Oh yeah.
white men, black men, all men. Because even in my group, I got everything from India, Saudi Arabia, Australian. I've got European, you name it. I've got across the board. Black guys, white guys, everybody. The
Yep.
reason why is together we're stronger, always. And so masculinity can only be attacked if we're isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, find other guys, healthy guys.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's such a point and a powerful point that you have your group. I'm also a part of a men's group, and it's a group of having a group of men who are going to be growth minded, growth oriented, who are you're having conversations, deep conversations, right? Opening up, sharing these different emotions that we experience and life experiences, because for so long it was looked at like, or maybe not for so long, but at least it hasn't been brought to the spotlight of the importance of having a group where it's just men getting together, right? Like women have had their groups for a long, long time, right? Book clubs, whatever it may be. And like you said, I think there's more men understanding the importance of that, right? So yeah, my hope is that through these conversations like we're having and with the work that we're both doing, that more of those men who feel like they're playing the solo game in life are going to be able to find their team, right? Or find their pack to be able to live it together. It's such an important thing. So I thank you for going deep into that.
Oh yeah, bro. I thank you for going in and fighting to pull some of these guys out of the nightmare, man.
Yeah.
Big Mike knows how to save people. Listen, man. So we're running out of time because I know you got an appointment coming up soon. Let's get into one last thing, and let's give people some tools here. Mike, I like what you're saying, but I don't have any motivation. What's the motivation? How did you do it, Mike? I need motivation. How do you help people with motivation, Mike?
Oh man, great question. A little bit of a loaded question, right?
Oh man, I loaded the hell out of that one. Yeah.
No, yeah. We've all got motivation. Let's be honest, right? I mean, if you're having a conversation with something about anything, any type of change that you want to make, you are motivated enough to make change. Like I alluded to a little bit earlier, it's how do you get strategic on the actions you're going to take to turn that motivation into actual action, and then to make it just become sustainable progress forward, right? Like, yeah, it's funny hearing. I mean, I've had people who are clients, prospects who would get on calls, and if I was just motivated, I was like, man, well, what brought you to this call today? That's the question you ask, right? And they say, well, I guess motivation did, right? I'm sitting here looking at the motivational interviewing book on my bookshelf in front of me. So yeah, no, great question, Rick. It's motivation, right? This is atomic habits, tiny habits, that kind of stuff. Motivation is a tiny blip. It's all you need for it to do is to have you take that first, not even the full step, just to pick your foot up. And then strategy is what's going to bring you forward in developing habits. So I'm not sure if that's the answer you expected.
It's your answer, man. You can It's your answer. You better answer how I expect, Michael.
Now, what do you think?
I love it. No, I think atomic habits comes up pretty often with a lot of the things that come in these conversations. But I also think that motivation is bullshit. Yeah. Wait, Rick, what did you just say? Said motivation's bullshit. Now it starts off, it's needed at first, but it's not meant to last, and people think it's supposed to be forever. I also have the 8 styles of motivation I found so far. This isn't going to be in this next book, but the book after this, I'll throw this stuff in there. But there's 8 styles I've found so far. I call it the 8 P's of motivation, the different words that start with the letter P. First is we know the move towards pleasure. Move towards pleasure, but you also know move away from pain. Those are the most common one. Probably the most common one is move away from pain. What about the desire for progress? Like I love to build. I love to create, What about fulfill your potential? It's like, I just want to see what I can do. I just want to go as far as I can, right? Here's a common one, getting pissed. Mike, you can't do that. Oh yeah? Watch me. You know that one, right?
It's a strong one. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're never going to lose that weight, Mike. Oh, yeah? Oh,
I got to say that one in and of itself has pushed me very far in my life.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, though, because the people who don't believe in you, your haters become your motivators. It's funny because as soon as you start to do it, then your haters start to agree and believe in you. And then where's your motivation come from?
Right.
You're like, I'm going to show you, Dad. I'll fucking show you I can't do it. And then he's like, you're really doing it, son. I'm real proud of you. And you're like, yeah, thanks, Dad. And then you're like, I'm going to go keep doing it. And you're like, Oh shit! Now the reason I was doing it is on my team. Damn it! Where's my
Yeah,
motivation now?
I
All right.
got
What
you.
about gaining insight, wisdom, or perception? Getting more like learning and seeing and understanding more. Driven by your purpose. I got out of bed because I have a purpose and I'm going for it. Or the desire to make others proud of you. And that's a big one. I want my dad or my mom or my wife or whoever to be proud of me.
Yeah,
And it feels good when the person who you admire or you love, even a mentor, can go, I'm really proud of you. Like, it's like,
for sure.
damn, I feel good. Those are my 8 Ps. Now, here's the problem. Just like any New Year's resolution, it's only meant to last for a little bit. You're not wrong with that blip. Correct, Amundo. But I think that there's a purpose for it. Now, I think there's a piece between the structure part and motivation, and that's discipline. The reason you had motivation is because you got motivated for a long enough period of time to learn skills for that thing that you wanted to do. I don't care if it's painting. I don't care if it's running. I don't care if it's, building something. You're learning new skills while I'm excited about it. And then at some point you're like, oh, I don't really feel like doing that today. Well, the reason you learn those skills is so now you can be disciplined. I'm going to do it even when I don't want to do it because I know it leads me towards the goal that I do want.
Yep.
And then after that, you have to figure out what your system for structure is, your system itself, the routines that you choose. And that could be using your Google Calendar or writing it down in a book or setting alarms in your phone or, creating some sort of structure that's my structure, my system I like. Your structure will be different than my structure because it's mine. And this is where people aren't set up correctly. They don't know their motivation styles. They don't know what discipline systems work for them, and they don't know how to create a routine that's authentic so that way they can sustain it, because people overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate a long period of time. So they think I got to do this P90X, or I'm going to do this 60-day program, or I'm going to do this with fad diet, and I'm going to crush it for 30 days. What is it or like they got the 70 hard or 75 hard or whatever it is. They got these things that's a short period of time designed to try to build a new habit, even though in our mind our default program is going to kick in as soon as that day hits, that 90 days, that 75
Right.
days or whatever it is. As soon as it hits, they're like, as soon as I finish this last day for P90X, I'm going to reward myself. Well, what reward system have you always used? Cake and ice cream. Every
Pleasure.
birthday I ever went to, every graduation I ever had, everything that I've ever done that was a celebration for myself or for others has ice cream and cake or treats or something. So I'm going to reward myself for doing a good job. Well, isn't the reason that you did P90X is because you ate too much ice cream and cake? No, 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 no. I deserve a reward. Don't take away what I deserve.
Right.
What's your motivation? What's your discipline? What's your structure? And then you can have some moderation in there, but look at it long term. And if you can look at a structure that you can create, when you said before, which was very right, something sustainable and bite size.
Mm-hmm.
People underestimate if you did like 20 or 30 minutes a day versus like some 2-hour damn workout. Do
Right.
20 minutes or 30 minutes a day. Visit discomfort. You'll feel better all day. And then just
Absolutely.
make
Yeah.
that your thing.
Yeah. I love that you touched on that reward piece too, because I do think that reward is an important thing, but it needs to be done very quickly, because there's a very short amount of time where our brain is actually going to anchor in the neurology around whatever the new habit is. And it also needs to be something that is continue to be in line with our vision and what it is that we're going for. So I love that you brought those points up. Super important.
Oh yeah, Mike. I gotta be real with you. Next time, like, I think I'm gonna be less like on fire as I am today because I feel like you were interviewing me today.
It's all good, man. Hey, this is what I do for a living. I ask questions. So no, this has been a lot of fun. I can be fiery as well. And I've really appreciated this conversation, Rick. It's great. I appreciate what you're doing in the world too. And, standing up for just helping men be the best men they can be. It's definitely something that's in demand right now. And I think that more people like you doing this good work is only going to continue to help us, get to where we want to be from a bigger picture perspective for society. So this has been fun and I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother. If anybody wanted to work with you, what do they got to do? How do they like? They're like, I like Mike, man. This guy's energy is good. I like his story. I like what he's doing. I want to work with Mike. I want to meet him. Like, how do they get in touch with you to be able to do that?
Yeah, really simple. I mean, if you wanted to get on my email list, that's probably the best place to be. It's just coachkrug.com. You'll be prompted to sign up there. Also, you can find me on Instagram. It's just Michael_Krug, my name, Michael_Krug. Those are the two places I'm probably the most active. So,
Yeah, and it's no longer Big Mike. Now it's Fit Mike.
absolutely, man.
It's been an honor, brother. Thank you so much for the time. Let's do some more of this because I think we've only tipped of the iceberg on how awesome you can be. So let's go ahead and do some more in the future. But otherwise, man, it's such an honor. Thank you so much for what you do and helping other brothers out in the battle, man.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the time today. And yeah, let's do it again. I'm down.
Later, brother.
All right. See ya.